Frustration is mounting and anger is growing with the liberals and passive politicians. Learn the playbook of those who are trying to destroy our country. From the blue-collar professor, he teaches, he leads, he speaks out for truth and justice. Now, the educator of all things conservative, your host, Dr. Gavin Mitchell.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of the program where we take the left of school, exposing them for who and what they are while arming the hardworking American citizens with knowledge to hold their elected officials accountable. But fear not, unlike most liberal professors out there, we do not believe in safe zones. There are no safe zones because we believe in the First Amendment. Welcome to the Gavin Mitchell Show. I am Gavin Mitchell. If you're looking to connect with the program, you can do so on the web, www.thegavinmitchellshow.com. You are welcome to email me anytime, gavin@thegavinmitchellshow.com. We're on Twitter at The GM Show, Facebook, facebook.com/The Gavin Mitchell Show. On demand, the show is 6 times a week, 5 days a week here on the podcast, and then our live show is available on iTunes, Spreaker, TuneIn as well. And yes, we are still striving for those 100 followers. We are getting closer and closer every day. I want to thank each and every one of you that have taken the time to do that. If you have not and you have a Spreaker account, it's simply just searching The Gavin Mitchell Show and clicking follow. If you do not have a Spreaker account, it only takes a couple minutes to sign up. It doesn't cost you anything. Then simply search The Gavin Mitchell Show and click follow. But I think you'll find a lot of things you're interested in out there on Spreaker. There are a number of great talk shows that house their shows there. It's a place where we store them and give people access. You can find us through the week. K98 Talk at 2 p.m. Central. That is 5 days a week. The405media.com at 8 p.m. Central, 5 days a week. And our flagship station, conservativeradionetwork.com, every weekday at 5 p.m. And then you can find us live Saturday night, 8 p.m. on News and Information KLIF 570 here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If you are not in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you can stream that through conservativeradionetwork.com at the same time, 8 p.m. Central. And again, that is a live show. I want to take a moment because you heard us last week say that we welcomed Red State Radio to the family. I want to comment on that a little bit. There have been some personnel changes over there at Red State Radio, and I am very, very careful about who and what this show associates itself with. I feel that I have an obligation to our listeners to make sure everything is on the up and up. And while I don't have any hard evidence, I just have that sixth sense feeling that Red State Radio is something we no longer want to be a part of. I am not talking poorly about them. They have been a great conservative talk radio station for a long, long time out there on the internet. And I'm sure they will be successful moving forward. But a lot of times when something smells funny, it just might be. And with the people that we had built relationships with and trusted over some time, once they were no longer a part of it, then it became something that I was uncomfortable with. So this is my decision solely. They are not happy at some things that we let our listeners know where to find us in all venues, just as I did today. We do not favor one over the other. Conservative Radio Network is our flagship station, and they have taken the banner. They have decided to put us up front and out front, and we're appreciative of that, and we're going to give them the recognition they deserve. But I just wanted to let you know that if by chance you were out there at Red State Radio looking for the Gavin Mitchell Show, we've decided to go a different direction. With all of that said, we are on the eve of New York. The New York primaries happen tomorrow, and it's getting hot. It's getting contentious, but I think it's all for naught, don't you? It seems like Donald Trump is going to run away with this on the right. It seems like Hillary Clinton's going to run away with it on the left, and it is what it is. I mean, these are not surprises to the other candidates there, perhaps to Bernie Sanders. Maybe he thought him growing up in New York, being born in New York, was going to give him a foothold there, but it just doesn't seem to be the case by the early polling. Now, with that said, Ted Cruz has been out. He's been in the rural areas of New York. He's been in upstate New York playing the same game. not campaigning for the popular votes, but campaigning for the delegates. And will he be successful? I don't know. This is something I'm very curious to see if this cruise effect and this strategy they have carries to New York. Donald Trump is out in front. He's out in front, but he's also crying foul. I don't think we expect much differently from Donald Trump, but he's not happy with the process. And we mentioned it a lot last week. In fact, we hit it pretty hard in the difference in strategies, and maybe the Trump campaign just didn't understand the way the game was played. Maybe they didn't understand that this wasn't a push for a popular vote. It was a push for delegates. And that's the way the system has worked since before Lincoln with the Republican Party. It has been a situation where the popular vote, dictated by states, and states have the right to regulate this however they want to, whether it's through congressional districts, whether it's the whole state, it's completely up to them. And each state has different rules. And the popular vote elects delegates. The delegates then go to the convention to elect the nominee. The GOP, the party that the GOP is, the Republican National Convention, it's a private entity. It is not a government establishment. There is nothing saying a candidate has to run as a Republican or as a Democrat. If you don't like the rules, you can, and many have, run as an independent. There are some advantages and disadvantages to this. The disadvantage is that you don't get the backing by one of the major parties. You don't get the endorsements, you don't get the campaign help, and you don't get the funds that come along with being the party's nominee. Those are the setbacks. The advantages are that you are immediately propelled to the general election by running third party, by running independent. You don't have to run through the primary season. But Donald Trump made a conscious decision to run as a Republican. And if you ask him, it's because he claims he's a conservative. He claims he's a Republican. And he was pressed this week. Well, Mr. Trump, if you're so frustrated by the process of the Republican Party, why not just leave the party? Why not just go run as an independent? You claim you're self-funding. So what's it matter? If you don't need the money, you've got the notoriety, you have figured out the magic key to beat the press, why not just run as an independent? And his response was one that I think all of us would hope to hear from a candidate if they feel the situation is bad. And he said, no, you know what? We're going to fix this. I'm not running from this. We're going to fix it. We owe it to the people. And that is fantastic. That's what you want to hear from a candidate, is that they're not going to run from the problem. They're going to get in there and they're going to fix it. But Donald Trump is talking out of both sides of his mouth. And I think, I'll say it again, I think Donald Trump will be a great president. I think that anybody other than Hillary and Bernie at this point would be a great president. Kasich is obviously third on my list. But whether it's Cruz or whether it's Trump, I'm telling you, this guy, Gavin Mitchell, I'm all for whomever it is. It's not a one or the other to me. That's not the goal. The goal is to beat Hillary. And we've talked about it several times about how the left is rigged. It doesn't matter what push Bernie Sanders makes. It is a rigged game. The superdelegates made this thing over before it started with the Democrats. But Bernie being in the race sure does help the right out. He is exposing her and weaknesses and chinks in the armor every day this campaign continues. We go back to the debate, the Democratic debate there in New York. And this whole idea of not releasing the transcripts is damaging to Hillary. You can't tell me that if there was nothing in those transcripts she didn't want her base to hear, she would have released them by now. She absolutely would have. She's talking out of both sides of her mouth. Because behind closed doors at these speeches up there on Wall Street, she's praising these guys. Oh, you're creating jobs. You're providing economic stimulus in the marketplace. It's a great thing. Look at capitalism go. But then she gets out here in front of a microphone to all the common people like you and me, and she starts screaming, oh, shame on Wall Street. We need to break them up. They're They're the reason that the whole economic collapse happened in '08 and '09. Well, that's not true. And we've talked about that as well. What happened in '08 and '09 is a direct result of her husband's policy that everyone, regardless of their financial situation, should be able to own a home. And then we had the adjustable rate mortgages, the ARMs out there, coupled with ninja loans, no income, no job, no asset. And you pair those two together and people can afford 1 or 2% for a couple years. But when that rate gets levered up, when it accelerates up, when it adjusts after whatever period it was, and it goes from 1 to 2% to 13, 14%, they can no longer afford their homes. Now, I'm not absolving the mortgage bankers and Wall Street from pushing these and selling them. There was zero discipline there. They didn't care about their clients. If they cared about their clients, they wouldn't have put them in those loans. But then they bundle them up knowing they're bad, it's bad paper. And they securitize it, selling off claims to that bundle. And then people like Standard & Poor's, these grading agencies, come in and they just lie. They claim it's A paper and it's not. So there's a lot of people at fault, but the dominoes started falling with Bill Clinton. And I alluded to it last week, but I felt like I owed you that explanation. So Clinton talks out of both sides of her mouth, right? It's their fault that happened. No, it's not. It's liberal policy. That's what made all of this happen. And you talk to anybody that has any wherewithal in the finance world that understands how these things work, and they're going to tell you the same thing if they've looked into it at all. But I want to go back to this deal on the left. That's done, right? It was over before it started. But on the right, we may have a race. And Cruz and Kasich are fighting to keep Donald Trump from the 1237 and get to this contested convention piece. That's what the battle is about. And Cruz has gone about it by gathering delegates. Well, Trump comes out and just screams foul. It's a rigged system is his situation. The left is a rigged system. The right, it's not rigged. It may not be the best way to do it. It may be archaic. All of that may be true. It may be time to revisit the way we elect nominees for the Republican Party. I'm not arguing any of that. I'm open to all of that. But what you can't say is that the rules weren't clearly defined at kickoff. When we started this game, everybody had the opportunity to know the rules. And I was listening to the Blaze Radio Network this weekend in Mike Slater's show, and he was interviewing Donald Trump. And Donald Trump said exactly this, that because he is self-funding and because there weren't enough, and I'm using air quotes with my fingers, enough delegates in Colorado and enough delegates in Wyoming, he wasn't going to spend the millions upon millions of dollars to be in those two states several months ahead of time to try to whip the delegates' votes. That was his stance. So that's what he said on this radio show, but when he's on this network program, the whole thing's rigged. Ted Cruz can't get any delegates unless the establishment hands it to him. Well, that's simply not true. Now, what we are learning is Donald Trump's beginning to play a little politics with this, right? You bet. I'm not mad at him for saying it. It's just not true. And so Ted Cruz has an understanding of how this game works, and he did what he needed to do to whip those delegates, and he got him a nice little chunk. But now we're in New York. We're back to primaries. We're not back to conventions where delegates are passed out. We're back to where the delegates are awarded based on the popular vote. And the way it works in New York is there's a group of state delegates, and then each congressional district has 3 delegates. If a candidate receives more than 50% in each of those districts, they get all 3 delegates awarded to that district. If they do not, then it breaks down 2-1. Now, Kasich's running strong in New York. He is. But the victory here for the non-Trumpsters would be to keep Donald Trump from a landslide victory. They need to chop this up proportionately. And I'm not talking a third to Trump, a third to Cruz, a third to Kasich. I'm talking half to Trump, half to everybody else. That would be a victory for the non-Trumpsters. But again, it's New York. They love him up there. He's their guy. You know, now you have some people that are evangelical. You have some people that love the Constitution. You have some people that, just like everywhere else, aren't buying into the Trump phenomenon. But for the most part, it's Trump country, right? And if he wins, and he wins big, and he gains some momentum, it's back on the Trump train for everybody because, he took a couple weeks off is what it looks like. And then he came back, he adjusted things, he went and got Manafort. And now moving forward, Manafort has the time to do what Manafort does, right? But Ben Carson has endorsed Donald Trump and he served as a surrogate. And I've said it from the beginning. I love the mess out of Ben Carson. I think Ben Carson is incredibly brilliant. You have to be a pediatric neurological surgeon. But more importantly, he's equally a good guy as he is smart. He believes in the Bible. He believes in Christian values. He believes in representing himself in a respectful manner. He believes in productive exchange of ideas. He is a good man through and through, and you can't find anybody that says otherwise. But Ben Carson made a mistake, a big mistake, when he was on MSLSD with Andrea Mitchell. And they were talking about this archaic, in their opinion, this archaic rules situation with the GOP and how moving in. That's the claim. That's the claim from everybody that's not Trump is you knew the rules. You can't claim it was rigged or it was a bad system if you knew the rules and you elected not to play. And I think I've given you the evidence of that. But Ben Carson comes out, and I'm just going to read his quote directly. Yeah, well, during the Jim Crow era, those were rules too. They were written. Everybody knew about them. Didn't make them right. And I'm not saying this is the same, but I think you get the point. Just because rules are there, just because they were written by someone, doesn't mean they're right. Doesn't mean that you can't re-review the system. Now, to equate the rules of the GOP party, again, a private institution in which you can elect to be a part of it or not. No one makes you. It's not a government entity. To equate those rules for electing a presidential nominee, rules that were published well ahead of time with the Jim Crow era, that's apples and oranges, ladies and gentlemen. That's not okay. That's just not okay. Because this whole civil rights era was ignorance and it was wrong. And I'm not disagreeing with Ben Carson that maybe we should revisit this over on the Republican side. Maybe we should rewrite these rules. Maybe it should go to a popular vote situation. I don't know what the answer is, but that option's not on the table right now. But Ben Carson was dead wrong in saying this, and he did walk it back. I'm not arguing it's not unfair. I'm not arguing that this isn't the way it should be. Ben Carson was out of line with that comment. As blunt as I can be, that's where I stand with that. Now, we mentioned last week that Reince Priebus went to that dinner, and there's a lot of debate. This committee is about to get together, I believe, next week in Hollywood, Florida, to decide how they're going to shake this thing up, to decide what rules they're going to establish. And there's some pushback by this committee. There are some people on the Rules Committee who don't agree with Reince Priebus, and things are flying. But Reince Priebus came out, just to sum it up and remind you, and said, we're not going to rewrite Rule 40. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that 8-state majority threshold should hold. But then in the very next breath, he said, just because a delegate is pledged to someone doesn't mean that's where their loyalties lie. And if personally they support candidate X and they're pledged to candidate Y, well, that counts for candidate X too. And if you can pass that threshold of 50% in any given state, then that counts as one of the 8 states. This is bad interpretation in my mind. Bad interpretation. He then continued to say the term states is loosely defined in this situation, and it includes territories, and that 5 of the territories follow him anywhere. If he says this is the way to go, then that's the way to go. And so I don't know what's going to come out of the meeting, the Rules Committee, next week in Hollywood, Florida. Who knows? But I'm telling you, if the GOP doesn't tread lightly, everybody said it. When you look at that convention, there is not an outcome coming out of that convention that I believe this party stays whole. There is not an outcome in which I believe this party begins to move towards uniting and being healthy. I think the GOP is in a lot of trouble, no matter what the outcome is. No matter if Donald Trump wins on the first ballot or not. Well, let me rephrase that. I think that's the only outcome. Now that I think about it, that's the only outcome. If Donald Trump walks in with 1237, that's the only possible way it happens. And by that, I mean, if there are unpledged delegates out there and he's able to capture those and hit that threshold, that's the only way this party stays whole. But it's not even whole then. It's fractured, just not as bad as the other options. Because there are some people out there that swear up and down they are never going to vote for Donald Trump, no matter what. They're either going to stay at home or vote for Hillary. And that is incredibly dangerous, incredibly dangerous. On the other side, the Saudis are posturing. I want to talk about this. We talked about it a little bit last week, the 28 pages that are sealed in confidentiality. I want to talk about what this means and their threat. There are some economic effects if they decide to do it. Want to educate you on that, what it means. And we're going to take the left to school on the other side of break. Don't go anywhere.
The Gavin Mitchell Show.
Do you believe in conservative politics, common sense issues, and the U.S. Constitution? So does Matt Locke. Who is Matt Locke? Well, Matt's just a guy that believes, like many of you, that our country is headed in the wrong direction. If you feel the same, then go to Matt's new website, themattlockshow.com. Matt is a friend of the Gavin Mitchell Show, and he's a conservative podcaster and talk show host who will shoot you straight and provide information that is important to the conservative listener. You'll hear political commentary, news, and he'll discuss the current issues that will affect you during this election season. Listen to Matt's daily podcast anytime on his website at themattlockshow.com, spelled MATTLOCKE, or find his show on Spreaker.com and TuneIn.com. He's also syndicated on ICRN, the internet's new conservative radio network. Join Matt and his guest on the Matt Locke Show daily at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific on conservativeradionetwork.com, or listen to any of his 400 archive shows at any time on themattlockshow.com. The Matt Locke Show, all things conservative politics.
The following message is brought to you by Health Markets, your first choice when you need health insurance for your small business. Do you offer health insurance to your employees? Call us now and see if you can save money. Do you want to offer vision and dental to your employees? Call us. Do you think you're paying too much for your current health insurance? Call us. Do you want somebody else to do all the legwork and search thousands of health plans from over 180 health insurance companies nationwide? Call us. We're Health Markets, and thanks to a little-known solution, we could help your business save thousands of dollars on health insurance costs and save your employees money too. Our service is free. Don't miss the great savings. Call now.
800-470-8021. 800-470-8021. 800-470-8021. That's 800-470-8021.
Health Markets Insurance Agency is DBA of InSphere Insurance Solutions, Inc., licensed in all states. Product availability varies.
Are you tired of making payments to a security company that doesn't seem to have the same values as you and doesn't offer the most recent technology? American Defense Systems is a veteran-owned and operated security company specializing in home security and automation solutions to fit your lifestyle while keeping small business owners more connected to work while on the go. American Defense Systems makes practical recommendations for families to keep your home safe without trying to sell you a bunch of extra stuff. And for businesses, American Defense Systems wants to provide you with the comfort of knowing that your business is safe by allowing you the monitoring options you need without loading you up with too many extras. American Defense Systems' goal is to provide your home or business with an affordable and technically superior security and automation system. If you're not happy with your current security system or provider, set up a no-cost consultation today at AmericanDefenseSystems.com. That's AmericanDefenseSystems.com. American Defense Systems, proud to be a veteran-owned company.
Twisted Roads Trading Post in Crowley, Texas is your premier biker apparel, leather, and accessory store. Stop in and visit with brothers Ron and Carl Phillips. Twisted Roads Trading Post carries leather jackets, chaps, vests, accessories, gifts, and more. Open 5 days a week, Wednesday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and on Sundays, 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Got a motorcycle or trike to sell? Let Twisted Roads Trading Post be the place to go. Their park and sell lot is now available and anxious to show off your ride. Sewing, embroidery, and t-shirt printing services are also available throughout the week. Call today or visit twistedroadstradingpost.com or find and like them on Facebook. Located west of Crowley on FM 1187, then south on FM 1902. Go 1.3 miles and look for the flags. 817-768-8761. That's 817-768-8761. Twisted Roads Trading Post. If the flags are flying, we're open.
It's time for the professor to take the liberals to school. Sit back and get armed with the knowledge to defeat the left as we step into the classroom with your blue-collar doctor. Here's your host, Dr. Gavin Mitchell.
So last week we talked a little bit about these 28 pages in the 9/11 report that were classified. And there have been people that have seen these 28 pages, and while they can't directly comment on what's in there, those that have seen it have indicated that what is perceived by the public is accurate, that everything people are saying holds true. And they can't get into the details, but the 9/11 report was commissioned to go out and find out every detail they possibly could about why 9/11 happened. What was it? Who financed it? Who was behind it? Who carried it out? What were the shortfalls in our detection systems, our intelligence, the whole nine yards? They wanted everything. And they did a pretty sound job. They did. But there were 28 pages omitted from this report. And they are classified. They're held under lock and key, and only certain people can see them. Now, every indication is that these 28 pages are pointing a finger right at the Saudi government, right at Saudi Arabia and their kingdom, as the ones who financed the 9/11 attacks. Well, there is a bill, and has been for some time, on the floor of the House, I believe it's on the floor of the House, that wants to declassify and release these 28 pages. That's what they're after. Now, I pulled this article off Breitbart because investigative journalist and Hoover Institution media fellow Paul Sperry decided to do an interview with Stephen Bannon on Monday morning, which is today, about the release of these 28 pages. Now, why is Sperry the guy to ask this? Well, he's written some books and things like that, but he also published an article in the New York Post this weekend about how the U.S. covered up the Saudis' role in 9/11. And after many interviews with intelligent and law enforcement officials who say, quote, virtually every road, end quote, from 9/11 attacks lead back to the Saudi embassy in Washington, as well as the Saudi consulate in Los Angeles. But investigators, anybody that investigated, are constantly told to back off from pursuing those leads from government officials. So the Saudis are concerned that this gets released. And I just want to give you a little background because I saw a great report on this on one of the network channels. I don't remember. And some of these guys came in through Los Angeles that conducted the attacks on 9/11. And they didn't know the language, they didn't know the culture, but immediately they found housing, they found jobs, and they went right to flight school. Somebody had to lend them a hand to acclimate. That is a culture shock unlike any, going from Saudi Arabia to here, especially LA, right? And all the smoke says that it was the Saudi government, their establishment there in Los Angeles, that helped them. Well, all indications say these 28 pages point a finger right at Saudi Arabia and their government for funding this. So Saudi Arabia doesn't want this released, because if this is released, then all indications are that this gives the victims' families of 9/11 the leverage and the standing and the right to sue Saudi Arabia for funding this. So how does Saudi Arabia respond? Well, they have told the Obama administration directly and members of Congress that it will sell off hundreds of billions of dollars worth of American assets held by the kingdom if Congress passes that bill. And so now we have a threat. Now we have some posturing, right? How much are we talking? We're talking $750 billion in what is equivalent to economic warfare. Now, this is where I want to get into understanding how this situation works. When the government issues treasuries, bonds, bills, notes, things of that nature, and you can go, we often hear it referred to as a savings bond. Well, what that is the government gives you a piece of paper that says a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, this piece of paper will be worth $100. You can buy it today for $95. And that would be a 5% increase in your investment. And when that expiration date, we call it a maturity date, hits, then you can take that piece of paper back to them and they'll hand you a $100 bill. That's how the Treasury works. But they don't just sell them to United States citizens. And it's not just $100 here and $100 there. It is significant. You hear about the national debt. This is what we're talking about, because when you hold that piece of paper, they have to pay you that money come that time. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is a guaranteed note backed by the federal government. And so Saudi Arabia and the kingdom has bought up $750 billion worth of these notes. And they are threatening to sell them all off if this bill is passed. Well, their claim is that if we don't sell them off, then the courts are just going to freeze it. We won't be able to move them, and we'll be stuck with worthless paper while these trials go on. And we know they're going to go on for a long time. That's what they're posturing. And that very well may be true, but that's not what this is about. This is an economic threat. Why do I call it economic warfare? Well, ladies and gentlemen, the reason I call it economic warfare is the laws of supply and demand are this. There is an equilibrium point where you find the right amount to supply relative to the right amount of demand, and where those two curves meet is called an equilibrium point. That's when the market's steady. That's when the market's good. But if you flood the supply, if you supply more than is demanded, then the market value of whatever you're selling falls because there's more out there. You don't have to pay $10 here. You can pay $8 there. There's too much of it out there for it to be valuable. The key here is rare is valuable. If it's not rare, it's not valuable. And that's relative. Something can be more rare than the other. There can be too much of something. And what the right number is depends on supply and demand. And so if $750 billion worth of United States assets hits the global market, well, then supply has far exceeded demand, has it not? And what happens? The price begins to drop. That is a scary thing. It's a very scary thing because now the paper that the U.S. government is issuing becomes worth less. Not worthless, but worth less. And so the Saudi government is posturing here saying, look, we're going to fire this shot if you do this. I'm just letting you know now. They sent a high-level official directly to Congress and told them point blank, this will happen. This will happen. And I do what you want here. To me, the lives of those citizens, the very fact that someone had the audacity to attack us on our home soil, it's worth a couple of years of hard times to me. And I know that's a tough decision, but I'm not fazed by their threat at all. Not even close. Flood the market. I don't care. You're going to be held accountable for flying planes into buildings on U.S. soil. You're going to be held accountable for taking innocent American lives. You don't get off scot-free. I don't care what the diplomatic consequences are. I don't care what the economic consequences are. And I just want to bring this full circle to this administration before we hit this break. Our president this past weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, somewhere in there, sent 9 Guantanamo prisoners back to Saudi Arabia. the very Saudi Arabia that all suggestions and indications say financed the terror attacks on 9/11. Let that set with you a while. We're going to Brazil on the other side. Hang tight.
The Gavin Mitchell Show.
Do you need residential or commercial roof repairs, maintenance, or replacement in the Dallas-Fort Worth area? J-Bow Roofing has over 35 years of experience in the industry, and they have the know-how to keep you dry and comfortable. J-Bow Roofing also offers a roofing system that is warranted against hail of any size, and this is a no-excuse warranty. J-Bow Roofing doesn't want their customers to cringe every time it hails. They want customers to have complete confidence that their roofing system is going to stand up to the task. Basically, J-Bow Roofing wants to stop the insanity, lifetime roofing period. Re-roof once and be done. A J-Bow roof product is aesthetically pleasing and tougher than anything you can find. A J-Bow roof is so nice your neighbors will want it. J-Bow lifetime roofing systems are strong as steel, tougher than hail, and guaranteed. So it'll be the last roof you put on your house. Looking for a price? Get a no-cost, no-obligation quote today at jabeau.com. That's jabeau.com. J-Bow Roofing. Your long-term satisfaction is their immediate goal.
Attention business owners. We know that owning a business means getting things done right now. So if your right now list includes a new building, call the Right Now Company. General Steel. We can design a building for your business quickly and save you thousands of dollars. That's right, thousands. You may think General Steel only builds large projects or that you can't afford General Steel quality. Well, check these prices. How about a 40 by 60 foot building for under $22,000? Or even a 50 by 100 for under $35,000? That's right, a 5,000 square foot building for under $35,000. And these buildings all have General Steel quality. Best of all, you can still order a building and have it delivered in time to build this year. How's that for right now? So if your right now list includes a new building, call the Right Now Company, General Steel.
800-398-8309. 800-398-8309. 800-398-8309. That's 800-398-8309.
Twisted Roads Trading Post in Crowley, Texas is your premier biker apparel, leather, and accessory store. Stop in and visit with brothers Ron and Carl Phillips. Twisted Roads Trading Post carries leather jackets, chaps, vests, accessories, gifts, and more. Open 5 days a week, Wednesday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and on Sundays, 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Got a motorcycle or trike to sell? Let Twisted Roads Trading Post be the place to go. Their park and sell lot is now available and anxious to show off your ride. Sewing, embroidery, and t-shirt printing services are also available throughout the week. Call today or visit twistedroadstradingpost.com or find and like them on Facebook. Located west of Crowley on FM 1187, then south on FM 1902. Go 1.3 miles and look for the flags. 817-768-8761. That's 817-768-8761. Twisted Roads Trading Post. If the flags are flying, we're open.
Hey everybody, your pal Gavin Mitchell here from my friends at Texas Elite Landscape. We all have that embarrassing spot in our yard we just can't seem to get grass to grow. Or perhaps you're tired of pumping hundreds and thousands of dollars into your yard just to get it to turn green when the weather warms up. Or maybe the constant maintenance is just too much to bear. Well, my friends at Texas Elite Landscaping are the most respected synthetic grass installation specialist in North Texas. Locally owned and operated, they have installed over 1 million square feet of the highest quality grass made right here in the USA. And I know what you're thinking. Is it pet and child friendly? You bet it is. So whether you want your yard looking picture perfect year round, no matter what the season is, or perhaps you'd like a putting green in the backyard to keep your husband home on Saturdays, give my friends at Texas Elite Landscaping a call today. 214-298-7726. That's 214-298-7726. Or find them at texaselitelandscaping.com.
Let's get back to the program. If you're sick of the garbage that comes out of Washington, D.C., then it's time to arm yourself with knowledge from the Blue Collar Professor. Here's your host, Dr. Gavin Mitchell.
I want to take a moment and tell you about my buddy Daryl Petter. In life, there are two areas we all hold very close to the vest, and they're very personal. I'm talking about our medical history and our financial situation. When it comes to your health, you don't just go to any corner shop or Johnny-come-lately. You find the very best in their field. So why wouldn't you do the same with your financials? Daryl Petter has over 2 decades in the industry and has assembled the very best team he can find. Look, Daryl and his guys, they're not just going to sell you anything you're willing to buy. They're going to sit down. They're going to ask you what your goals are. And whether that's putting your kids through college or transferring your wealth to the next generation with as little tax obligation as possible, Daryl will find the right vehicle that gives you the very best chance to achieve those goals. No one has a crystal ball to see what the future holds, but with over 2 decades of experience, Daryl and his team have seen plenty of ups and downs in the market. Daryl and the guys at Petter Financial, they're personal friends of mine, and they handle all of my financial service needs. And I encourage you, give Daryl a call today, 817-416-4346. That's 817-416-4346. So I promised you we'd go out to Brazil. What is going on in Brazil that has caught the Gavin Mitchell Show's attention? Well, we have the Olympics coming up, and they're struggling. They're struggling to get this done and to make sure everything's complete and ready. We've heard a lot about their water quality, how it might be dangerous and even toxic for the athletes that compete in the waterways there in Brazil. But that's not why we go to Brazil. Yes, the Olympics are coming up, but for the second time in under 25 years, Brazil's Chamber of Deputies, and that Chamber of Deputies is the same thing as our House of Representatives, voted to impeach a democratically elected leader, President Dilma Rousseff. Now, Rousseff is part of the Workers' Party, and this is a very left organization, this Workers' Party. They are borderline communist, if you want the truth to be told. But there are a lot of parties out there in Brazil, not just two. There is an actual communist party. There's her party. There are a few more. It's not just one party. And so the House votes 367 to 137 late Sunday night in favor of impeachment. They only needed 342 votes to get that done. Now it moves to the Senate, and the Senate's going to, I guess they're going to decide, it says here in this article, mid-month next month as to whether a trial will be held. Now, the Senate only needs a simple majority. They don't need the 342 that the House needed. Now, what is it she's being impeached about? They're just hard times down in Brazil. These leftists have come in and imposed their will on the people, made all these promises of a better life, of better happenings. And when the reality came through of liberal policy and they realized that that's not what happened, people got mad. People got fired up. And they're not excited about this. And the reason I bring it up is this is a lesson for those of us in the United States, is that when you put a liberal in office, all those promises they make are smoke and mirrors. Oh, free education. Yeah, well, we're going to redistribute wealth. Everybody's going to have a job and be happy. And it's garbage. It's pure garbage. Because what they don't tell you is how they're going to pay for it. What they don't tell you is they take your whole paycheck and redistribute what they think you should have. That's how the left works. Anything they can do to get in your pocket, and they're going to convince you you're a victim to do it. Well, apparently the majority of the House down in Brazil has had enough. She hadn't committed a crime. They just had enough. And so they elected to impeach her, and it rolls to the Senate. Well, there's backlash, and this country is incredibly divided, much like ours is right now. And those that support this president are saying, well, it's an anti-democratic move. We elected this president. She shouldn't be removed just because. And the country is split right down the middle. But let me tell you something. This is a reaction from constituents and elected officials who are desperate. The left has come in and promised all these great things, that they're going to revamp this and bring back the industries and all of that garbage that the left sells. And the people bought it, and they elected this clown. And she gets in there and just makes things worse like the left always does. Now, are you seeing the parallels to home? Are you seeing the parallels to Barack Obama coming in and promising change? Well, he got the change. He delivered on that, but that's about all he delivered on. We now have the weakest military, relatively speaking, in the history of the United States. We're a laughingstock around the world. Small businesses are collapsing because of Obamacare. and the taxes they shove down our throats. Heroes are dying, and we're being lied to about it. Terrorists are coming in our country and wreaking havoc, and it's always somebody else's fault. It's always somebody else's fault. We're letting terrorists back onto the battlefields because it's too expensive to run Gitmo, but we're going to save some turtles for the same money. His priorities are all backwards. But I felt like because Brazil is a few steps ahead of us in this process, that it was noteworthy, just like Europe is a few steps ahead of us in the refugee situation. We need to pay attention to what's going on around the world and take note, ladies and gentlemen. We need to learn the lessons from these other countries and these other areas so we don't make the same mistake. They talk about history all the time. If you don't learn it, you're failed to repeat it, or you're doomed to repeat it. If we don't pay attention to the lessons taught to us by other countries and their mistakes, we're going to make the same mistakes. And at what cost? At the cost of American exceptionalism. It is that simple. Hey, on the other side, there's some gun legislation. I find it interesting. Let's talk about it. You may not guess where I land on this. Hang tight.
The Gavin Mitchell Show.
Are you tired of making payments to a security company that doesn't seem to have the same values as you and doesn't offer the most recent technology? American Defense Systems is a veteran-owned and operated security company specializing in home security and automation solutions to fit your lifestyle while keeping small business owners more connected to work while on the go. American Defense Systems makes practical recommendations for families to keep your home safe without trying to sell you a bunch of extra stuff. And for businesses, American Defense Systems wants to provide you with the comfort of knowing that your business is safe by allowing you the monitoring options you need without loading you up with too many extras. American Defense Systems' goal is to provide your home or business with an affordable and technically superior security and automation system. If you're not happy with your current security system or provider, set up a no-cost consultation today at AmericanDefenseSystems.com. That's AmericanDefenseSystems.com. American Defense Systems, proud to be a veteran-owned company.
Boy, man, I had a rough night's sleep. Boy, I got a letter from the IRS yesterday, and I just couldn't sleep. Man, I'm dying here. Somebody help me.
IRS problems affect more than just your finances. If you're ready to take back control of your life and you owe more than $10,000, you need to call the Tax Doctor. Their expert staff can immediately protect you from the IRS and state collectors and get you the best possible tax settlement guaranteed. The IRS has recently released new programs geared in helping struggling taxpayers, where you may qualify to settle your tax debt and wipe out up to 85% or more of what you currently owe. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, call the Tax Doctor right now. See if you qualify to pay less. 800-631-9123. 800-631-9123. 800-631-9123. Again, 800-631-9123.
Do you believe in conservative politics, common sense issues, and the U.S. Constitution? So does Matt Locke. Who is Matt Locke? Well, Matt's just a guy that believes, like many of you, that our country is headed in the wrong direction. If you feel the same, then go to Matt's new website, themattlockshow.com. Matt is a friend of the Gavin Mitchell Show, and he's a conservative podcaster and talk show host who will shoot you straight and provide information that is important to the conservative listener. You'll hear political commentary, news, and he'll discuss the current issues that will affect you during this election season. Listen to Matt's daily podcast anytime on his website at themattlockshow.com, spelled MATTLOCKE, or find his show on Spreaker.com and TuneIn.com. He's also syndicated on ICRN, the internet's new conservative radio network. Join Matt and his guest on the Matt Locke Show daily at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific on conservativeradionetwork.com, or listen to any of his 400 archive shows at any time on themattlockshow.com. The Matt Locke Show, all things conservative politics.
The following message is brought to you by Health Markets, your first choice when you need health insurance for your small business. Do you offer health insurance to your employees? Call us now and see if you can save money. Do you want to offer vision and dental to your employees? Call us. Do you think you're paying too much for your current health insurance? Call us. Do you want somebody else to do all the legwork and search thousands of health plans from over 180 health insurance companies nationwide? Call us. We're Health Markets, and thanks to a little-known solution, we could help your business save thousands of dollars on health insurance costs and save your employees money, too. Our service is free. Don't miss the great savings. Call now.
800-470-8021. 800-470-8021. 800 800-470-8021. That's 800-470-8021.
Health Markets Insurance Agency is DBA of InSphere Insurance Solutions, Inc., licensed in all states. Product availability varies.
Hey, liberals, try rooting for your own country for a change. Our blue-collar educator of all things common sense does. Now, back to the Gavin Mitchell Show.
So, Shanine Allen is a Pennsylvania mother of two. And in 2015, she got stopped in New Jersey and was arrested for possessing a handgun, which she had a concealed carry permit and proper registration, the whole 9 yards. Everything was legit except for the fact that she lived in Pennsylvania, and that was Pennsylvania paperwork. And the reason she got the gun is she was a single mother of two and had been robbed twice in the previous year. So she travels to New Jersey for whatever reason, has the proper paperwork, has her firearm, gets stopped, and gets arrested. Well, let's fast forward. She faced 10 years in prison in New Jersey because New Jersey doesn't recognize the Pennsylvania carry permit. Now, Governor Chris Christie ultimately pardoned her, but it brings about this fight that is going on up in Washington right now with Gun Owners of America lobbying to get some legislation passed. Well, Marlon Stutzman, a representative from Indiana, and Senator John Cornyn out of Texas have co-authored some legislation to make it kind of a federal deal, right? And I want to throw the caveat in there that John Cornyn has a 48% Liberty score out of conservative review. I am not happy with this guy as a fellow Texan. It's time to replace John Cornyn. When it comes to senators, Ted Cruz, he is not. Kay Bailey Hutchinson, he is not. It's time for this guy to go. But this is a good move here. If you have a mother of two who has been robbed twice in the last year, and she wants to exercise her Second Amendment right to protect herself and her kids and her property, she shouldn't be subject to 10 years in prison for crossing state lines. And this is one of those political plays. You'll see the left exercising this right all the time. Now, I want to be clear. There's a fine line here because states have a right to regulate. And states have a right as to whether they want to acknowledge and respect other states' concealed carry permits. It might be, as Virginia claims, although this isn't the truth behind it, but it might be that the standards in another state aren't high enough. They don't police or educate, or the background check isn't extensive enough for their liking for someone to come into their state and carry a gun. Understandable. But it's often a political move, right? It's not always that. But this legislation is moving forward to make sure that people can protect themselves across state lines. And I want to just point out as we close out the show that this is the proper way to make changes, ladies and gentlemen. If you want something done, you get your elected officials to do it democratically. You don't go out into the street. You don't walk all over the flag. You don't incite riots. You don't block people's First Amendment to right or to assemble or to speak. That's not how you do it. You initiate change and proper change in the law. And this is the right way to do it because those of us who respect the Second Amendment, believe in the Second Amendment, and believe in a person's right to protect themselves and their property shouldn't stop at the state line. I agree with that completely. And they are working on getting rid of the barriers that keep that from happening because right now it's regulated by the states and it should be regulated by the states. But there should also be a little caveat. Folks, that's going to do it for today's show. What a great Monday. I will see you right here tomorrow on the Gavin Mitchell Show. Remember, in the words of the great Ray Wiley Hubbard, on the days I keep my gratitude higher than my expectations, well, I have really good days. I hope you have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. I am Gavin Mitchell.
Thanks for listening to The Gavin Mitchell Show, the Blue Collar Professor, produced in Fort Worth, Texas. If you like what you just heard, subscribe on iTunes and Spreaker.com. These and other links can be found on our website at thegavinmitchellshow.com. Be sure to tell your friends and colleagues about the Blue Collar Professor's daily podcast. Join us again next time as we take the liberals to school. All opinions expressed by the host or guests on this series are solely their opinions and do not reflect the views, policies, or positions of the Gavin Mitchell Show or its affiliates. This has been a Ron Phillips, Pinnacle Broadcast Holdings production.